the Web of Success podcast, building better businesses.
Today I'm here in Birmingham with Jimi Shabir, who is the founder of multi-award winning agency Bootcamp Media, and also founder of the networking club, the Phoenix Club.
Oh, I wish I was a founder.
Co-founder?
The current incumbent leader of the Phoenix Business Club.
Let's go with that then. Very good. So, muffled introduction for you there, Jimmy. But why don't you tell us a little bit more about Bootcamp Media, what it's all about, where you've come from, where you are, and then also about the networking side of stuff.
Awesome. Well, first of all, thank you, Richard, for having me today and sort of letting me tell a little bit about myself and my story as well, and a little bit about the businesses that I've sort of helped set up and run. A bit about me. Wow, where did we start? So, for me, maybe Bootcamp Media is the thing that most people know me for. Bootcamp Media for me started 11 years ago this year. But that journey started actually way before that. So I've been in the industry now for coming up 25 years. Sort of got into it by accident purely because I was a bit fed up with doing, sales jobs and sort of rudimentary retail, and just got bored, was being a bit aimless and didn't have a direction in life. And I thought about what is it that I could be doing, and sort of came across news stories about the internet and how it's revolutionizing the whole world and how it's going to change the whole world as well. And really got me interested, and really sort of got me thinking about what I wanted to do and whether this was something that I could really get into. And I was like duck to water, honestly. I was so passionate about it. I started learning how to code back in 1997. Started looking at how to do graphic design. This is way before any marketing roles I started taking up much later on in the time in the digital marketing space. But yeah, graphic design, web design, that's what I was really passionate about. And I did that for a good 3-4 years. Started working in an agency, and I was there for just over 12 years. And there I picked up the skills for digital marketing. And then Bootcamp Media was born 12 years later. And here we are today.
Very good. So, I mean, it sounds as though you spent a good chunk of time earning your stripes there, learning your craft and your trade. What was it that then made you take that decision, or was it something that inspired you? Where did Bootcamp Media come from?
Yeah, it's an interesting. There's lots of parts to this as to why I didn't do it much sooner, and I probably go back quite a few years before that. So back in 92, 93, I did start a business. And long story short, it scared the bejesus out of me, and I never really wanted to start a business again because starting a business is not for light-hearted, I would say. But around about 2011, I lost my dad, and we just had a young family as well. So lots of things were going on in my life, and I came to a crossroads in my life, as everyone does, and I just felt I needed to make a change. Not that I loved doing what I was doing, and I loved the work I was doing, and it wasn't that wasn't the reason I changed it. It's just that I needed to change the fortune for myself and my family. And my dad, having passed away, was a catalyst for that, I think, because it made me feel that if I don't do something today, that it could all end very quickly, and sort of, life is very short. And so I decided to bite the bullet and start Bootcamp Media. And it took me a whole year after my dad passed, because there was a lot of soul searching, there was a lot of sort of convincing myself, that I could do it. And obviously imposter syndrome kicks in really, really heavy as well. And it did for a long time after I started Bootcamp Media as well. So there's lots of reasons why I shouldn't have started, but there was one reason I definitely wanted to, and that was to change my future, basically. Yeah. And that's why I started Bootcamp Media in the end.
So that's where you started then. So over the last 12 years, and we might come back to the significant life event shortly, because that seems to be a theme in the previous podcast that we've done. I know you know Tony Elvin.
Yes.
There was a point within Tony Alvin's life as well that came through in that podcast. So we might come back to that, but let's talk a bit more about where you've now come from then. So the last 12 years, I'm sure it's been an interesting journey. Where have you come from an individual that started an organisation? Now you're a multi-award-winning digital marketing agency. What's that journey look like in as a quick synopsis?
Oh, a quick synopsis. Okay, so I formed the business in May of 2012, and to be honest with you, it was a bit of a whirlwind. So I suppose I'll try and condense it down as much as I can. But it literally was just me on my own, doing the web design and social media marketing and SEO and what have you. But obviously, I quickly realised that it wasn't going. I couldn't build a business just on me. Otherwise, I'm just a freelancer at the end of the day, or this is just a lifestyle business, and that wasn't certainly something that I envisioned for that year before I started the business. So, very quickly, I think around about August time, I started looking at hiring other people into the business. And one of the first people I took in the business was a web designer, because I knew that was a real core part of the business itself. And then I took on somebody who was amazing, who's still a great friend of mine. Was somebody who specialised in digital marketing, which was SEO, search engine optimization, and pay-per-click advertising. And so there was the three of us. I went out and got the work. I did some of the work. I still kept, I was a practitioner in the business as well. So one became three became six is now 15. So building a business meant having good people and great talent around me, and certainly that was part of the plan.
Yeah, well, I think we're early in the conversation, but we're already talking about people. So one of the things within our what we call the business basics, one of those is it's all about your people. Mm-hmm. And of course, you wouldn't have come from where you are to where you are today without good people. But aside from the people side of it, the people need something to help them maximise on their potential, right? So you've got to give them the right frameworks or mechanisms or structures, aside from just having talented people and just let them go off and do what they want. You've got to give them some structure to work with. So what's been important to you, I guess, if you were to give some advice to somebody that was in a position now, I think we're seeing a real boom in entrepreneurship since COVID.
Massive.
So therefore, if somebody was watching this and said, okay, what advice, I've just started, like you did, on my own, I want to scale in the same way that you did or kind of have done, become a multi-award winning organisation. Yeah. What are the key things or the key structures that you think have helped you get the right people, keep the right people, and grow that successful team that you've got?
First of all, I think it's good to understand your own strengths and weaknesses. That's the very first thing. And from that, you can build out what looks like and feels like a great team. For me, it always has been that I needed to hire people who were much, much cleverer than I was, and who definitely were ambitious as well in the business. I think without that ambition and drive within the business from within your team, you can't really steer it forward, at least in a meaningful way. So everybody that I've ever hired has been amazing. And definitely much better than I am. So, I'm usually the dumb one in the room, which is great. And I love that because I get told about how the business should be going forward. But obviously I've got vision as well, and they help drive that forward. But certainly from the marketing point of view, it used to be that I was leading the way forward in how to do something in marketing, whether it was social media, strategy, whether it's pay-per-click or SEO. And now it's the other way around. It's more like actually these are the current trends, and this is how things happen. I'm like, okay, great, let's go with that.
And that's natural as you grow, right? You as the ultimate leader within the business, as the kind of CEO of the business, become less hands-on, become more of that leader. And I think you've just in explaining there, you've shown that a true leader has a good level of humility about them, because if you're not humble enough, you don't take that advice from the people that you've brought in. Showing that you've got that participatory decision making within the organisation is one of the key things there, I think. But what in your words there, then from that perspective, how have you changed over that time?
So for me, it's allowed me to see what really gives me pleasure in seeing the team succeed. And when we have regular catch-ups, we don't even have sit-down appraisals, we have regular catch-ups now. And for them to tell me how much they enjoy the role, because they ultimately get freedom to do what they need to do, to achieve what they need to do for their client. And that's the end goal of it. It's keeping the client happy. And so that I don't handcuff them to say, this is a rigid structure that you have to work within. They can do what they need to do. As long as they're happy, the client is happy, then I'm always going to be happy. So that for me is what works and keeps a great team sort of.
So it sounds quite utopian, doesn't it? If you think about what you've just described there, that your team are happy and your customers are happy, which of course, again, thinking back to our basics, if your people are happy, and your customers are happy, then you've got a successful business, surely, right?
Nine times out of 10, that's always the case. But
so how do you do? Let's not be too coy about your own contributions here, about how you are supporting the guys and girls that work with and for you. Is you clearly have an influence over that. So what if we jump quickly to talk about leadership? And I've just touched upon a characteristic that we pick up in our Super 7, which is humility. But do you have a set of leadership characteristics that you hold dear to you? Do you try and inspire that within the team and try and use the same, or do you allow that freedom? I think freedom, when we talk about the utopia, giving your staff the freedom to do a great job. But that comes with structure. Maybe we'll come back to that in a moment. But let's talk about the leadership side of it. What characteristics, for you as a leader of this business, are important to you?
Patience is definitely a characteristic that I've learned to sort of embrace massively. I think coming from within the creative industry, people don't have a lot of patience because they want results straight away. But understanding that patience is a virtue in our business, and then obviously ensuring that our clients know that with certain results and what have you, you need to have patience, and also that goes both ways for the client and for the guys who are practicing as well. So that's definitely a characteristic that I think is important. I mean, a lot of what I've learned, around the humility side as well, being humble. It's a cultural thing that I've grown up with. My parents have taught me. My religion teaches me that as well. People I've encountered in business, I've seen the humility as well. There's some amazing people I can talk about today, and I look at them from a mentorship point of view as well. So there's a lot that I've learned from other people, and obviously from within my own family sort of structure as well. That humility part is a really important part of it as well. The last thing any employee wants or a team member wants is to have a arrogant boss, basically, sitting and preaching and without listening to their points of view. I will happily listen to everybody, and more often than not, I will take on board what they've said and action that. There are occasions, obviously, I've listened and absorbed what they said, and then still decided to go with what my gut instinct tells me. And that's the other thing. Gut instinct is a real asset as well, and don't not listen to it. It's there for a reason, and I've used that to my advantage many times. So gut instinct is also very important.
Good. And I think you've talked quickly there about you being fortunate enough to have people that have supported you and helped to guide you. So you've had your own leaders. We describe leadership as supporting, empowering, inspiring, and influencing those around you. So what you just described there is great leadership for you as a person as you've grown, and then you've then passed that onto your teams, right? So I think that's great. If we come back and touch upon what we kind of highlighted before about giving your people the freedom to do a great job, but surely there's boundaries and structure that you give them as well, right? Because you don't just go, just go and do what you want. There's freedom to go and do what you want, right?
So think of it like a virtual reality room, right? You've got a boundless amount of creativity. If anyone's ever used VR, you'll understand what I'm talking about. Now, if you use VR in your home, there's going to be obstacles in your way, right? So you do draw boundaries, and that's exactly what happens. The opportunities are endless, but you've got to watch where you are. So you got to watch out for the danger points in business as well. So I mean, again, there's no rigid structure in the business. I think I've given the team enough autonomy, but also to have enough sense as well. So luckily, when I've taken these guys on, I understand that they understand the logic of making decisions as well. So of course they'll always come back to me or somebody in the in the upper management as well and say, this is what the client wants to do. Should I just go ahead and do that, or is that something that I maybe shouldn't be doing right now? Yeah. I couldn't really give you an example. We've never really come across it as in it's like a red sort of red line situation. But my guys ask questions all the time, and we're quite happy to sort of sit down and discuss and let them make decisions on their own.
Teamwork is a massive, an important part, right, of the business. And you said you've hired. You've gone from 1 to 3 to 6 to 15, etc., etc. So, when you're hiring, you're not. I'm guessing that you're not just hiring everybody with the same skill set.
No,
so you've got to understand that blend of what's required, and then by giving them the freedom, but also having the boundaries, and would it be fair to say the defined roles and responsibilities within those roles, so they know, for example, Jimmy does the web development. If I've got a question about that, I know exactly who to go to because we've got those defined roles and responsibilities.
So, interestingly enough, everybody that we employ, obviously, look, we've got social media guys in the team, we've got PPC guys, we've got SEO guys, we've got designers, we've got developers, and so there are roles that they employed for. But more often than not, I'll give you a classic example. I mean, I took on 2 apprentices about a year ago now, and they both came for one job. I created 2 roles for them in the end because they were brilliant, right? Both said they wanted to come in for social media, but both have expressed interest in going into other areas of marketing as well. So I encourage that. So yes, your main role is this, but you can, it's sort of a grey area, but you can go into other areas as well. But it also means that you then are sort of working across the team, which is brilliant.
So you've got that cross-pollination.
Absolutely, I win because I've got guys who are specialising in more than one area of business as well. And I absolutely think, if you pigeonhole one person into one job, they soon get bored and they want to leave. And so that's never going to be the case in Bootcamp Media. If somebody wants to do web design alongside maybe another role as well, hallelujah, let's do that.
Let's work together to develop those skills. Good. And as you talk about growing and growth, and then obviously you think about as you get bigger, it gets not necessarily harder to manage, but of course
certainly it has its challenges.
Yeah, it has its challenges, of course. And so how do you kind of try and preempt or deal with those challenges on a day-to-day basis? You talked about communication and teamwork already, which is important.
Yeah. I've always had a rule of thumb from the very beginning when I started, was that for every 5 new clients, we'll have a new team member, obviously in a skill set area that's growing, right? So if we're taking on, we're growing our web design team at the moment because we've just got so much web design work coming in. So of course, rather than giving them all the work and just piling it up and then we gain delays in projects, we don't want that to happen. We want everyone to feel comfortable in their roles. They're not working against the clock and they're comfortable. So, we make sure that we've got enough resource in the business that everybody sort of feels comfortable. I know lots of business examples where people just get piles and piles and piles and piles of work, and there's no thought about their mental health or their well-being at all.
It comes back to you maximising the potential within your people by giving them the freedom, giving them the chance to do a great job. Well, of course, you can't do that if you're just killing them with too much work, right? Exactly. So let's move on slightly. I'm really keen to talk to you about technology because obviously a digital marketing agency that's obviously dealing with a lot of the latest trends, a lot of the latest tech. You've got your finger on the pulse, I imagine, with a lot of your customers and the demands that are out there from your what is clearly a diverse customer base that you've got with Bootcamp Media. But what are the risks or what are the issues that you see with people that have those demands for new technology, and how do you manage expectation? How do you manage how do you manage those customers that maybe don't know what they want and help to guide them
or steer them in the way that they need to go, because sometimes it's us who are leading the way rather than them demanding it off of us as well. I mean, there's so many examples I can give you. I mean, web design was one when it started back in the very late 90s. You'd get a few businesses who were tech savvy enough that they want to have a website done, and then leading on to e-commerce. And then what happened was the trend sort of came in the way that, oh, I need a website, but there'd be no purpose behind it. It's just like, they've got one, we want one. So that's one example. SEO was another one. My competitors are doing this thing called search marketing or SEO. We need it as well. Now everything is much more purposeful. We try and educate our clients about what will work for them in their industry, because it doesn't, SEO might not work in their industry because it's just too competitive. Pay-per-click might be a better way forward for them. Social media could be a way forward for them. So we try and investigate what's best for a client. And certainly from a trends point of view, you're looking at things like AR and VR, which is getting massive right now. ChatGPT AI, that's huge right now. And certainly we're getting a lot of people asking us about whether we can help with integration, which we can, and absolutely we understand the technology as well. Do we feel that we'll ever sort of fall behind? Well, we're always behind, because there's always something new on the horizon.
So much technology,
yeah, absolutely. So, in my world, my passion is search marketing, and search marketing evolves on a weekly basis. That there are changes in the algorithms with Google and other platforms as well on a weekly basis that keep us on our toes. And so, continually have to read journals and blogs and theories, which a lot of it is theory at the end of the day. So we've really got to keep on top of it. And then also all of the work that we do teaches us a lot about how marketing is working right now. And what works this year or what worked last year doesn't necessarily work this year as well. So we're always learning, and we're always sort of telling our clients what needs to be happening in their business, what they need to be adapting into their business as well. But certainly the big talking points right now are ChatGPT, which is AI. Bard is sort of limited to certain people at the moment, but I've used it. It's pretty powerful stuff out there as well. AR and VR, massive. And we're talking to clients about adapting those technologies in their businesses as well.
Good. So what I kind of picked up on there is you help your clients go from being, so we talk about being goal or output driven rather than activity driven. So somebody coming to you and saying, oh, they're doing SEO, I want SEO. There's no goal there. It's just saying, well, they seem to be doing the latest. So is it a case of then, your role is then to say, well, actually, that might be the right solution. Like you've just said there, it could be that you need a chatbot. It could be that you need whatever it might be. But working more of a goal-oriented or outcome-oriented way rather than just saying, I want one of those. Okay, well, we'll go and implement one of those for you because
it's easy for us to say, of course, we can deliver that. And then the reality of it is there's no value for it. And that relationship doesn't last very long, does it? Because you're not getting the results they're looking for because they thought they wanted a particular service. In this case, we're talking about SEO, right? Yeah. And we'll do it for 3 months, we'll do it for 6 months, and they're not getting what they need out of it. Whereas if we really took a holistic approach to marketing and we speak to the client and say, hey, what are you doing at the moment with your business? What's the history of your business? It could be a brand new one, but usually there's history. And what does your competitor landscape look like as well? And once we start looking at the whole picture, we can actually advise them much, much better, right? Than them saying, my marketing director thinks we need SEO or social media or pay-per-click. It might be that it's a combination of services that they need to help them to grow their business as well. Yeah.
And like you say, your finger is on the pulse with all the latest trends. You're trying to keep up. I mean, that's almost nigh impossible with all of the the plethora of stuff that's out there. But having you're constantly evolving, you're constantly checking that latest technology and being that interface for your customers out to whether they've got their own marketing teams. But from what I understand from the conversation so far is that you're very responsive to those trends because you've got guys dedicated to understanding, rolling that out quickly in an agile way, which seems to work really well. I think the blend of when I look at the corporate world that I've been in and then the SME space, there's a real stark contrast in that agility, I think, which is always interesting to see and hear. So you talk to you about keeping on top of the latest trends with technology and then feeding that back into your customers. So let's switch slightly and maybe take a third person approach to this rather than talking about your role in Bootcamp Media for a moment. So
that'd be interesting.
No, because you've got another role as well, right?
Yeah.
So within the networking side of
Phoenix,
business, so within the Phoenix Club, and the various things. So as a business in its own right, that's very successful within and continually expanding from what I can see. But in that sense, you see lots of other businesses, you talk to lots of other business owners, and you kind of you come together and do that networking. I think, do you take value? I mean, surely you take value from that, because otherwise you wouldn't be such a passionate networker.
Yeah.
I know you've won awards for networking. So, but if you take that third party or that third person look at business for a moment, how does that play out in conversations that you're hearing around? What do you hear about people's challenges? What are the main themes and that you hear from a networking thing when you really get to know people?
Yeah, so I mean, what's amazing, actually having come back from lockdown, is how much more powerful networking has become. I think people took it for granted before lockdown as a medium of connecting with people, but now it's such an important tool now. And certainly there's a lot of conversations that happen inside of networking, so it's difficult to sort of pin down an individual what people are talking about, but there's certainly a lot of conversations going on about what people are looking for in their businesses. But usually it's introductions, personal introductions into other businesses, and I think people are less shy about that now as well. So I've seen the Phoenix network grow massively, and a demand for more networking. Hence why we've gone from a traditional lunchtime, once a month network, which has been going on for 30 odd years now, to now near 8 different events across two months at a time, across lots of different areas in Birmingham, Black Country, Warwickshire as well. But yeah, there's lots of conversations around marketing, finding the right people for their businesses. So recruitment is a really important one. A lot of people talking about legal issues, like debt recovery and what have you. So there's a lot of conversations that happen, and amazing that when you start listening to those conversations, that how many people you do actually know, and you start thinking, oh yeah, I know such and such, they can help you, and I know this person over there, they can help you as well. And it's only when those conversations happen that you realize you're not the one delivering the service to them, but you're putting people together. And then hopefully what's happening is somebody else is having a conversation about you and connecting you to the other people as well. So that's certainly quite popular at the moment, and it seems to be working really well.
So have you seen that evolve? So I think the traditional view of networking is maybe quite transactional. You turn up, you try and win business off each other.
Yeah, the whole
is it now
business card.
Yeah. Is it now more relationship building? You see a lot more of that happening now by the sounds of it.
So I mean, I don't talk extensively because people will just throw tomatoes and stuff at me because they just want to get on with not talking to each other. But whenever I stand up and speak, I always remind people of the relationship that they're creating, rather than keeping it transactional, is to create those real friendships and relationships, because you'll care about the people that you're talking to and what their needs are, what their pain points are, and of course you will then try and find a solution for that problem as well. And that's certainly something in Phoenix that I'm finding that's happening a lot, is there's some solid friendships and relationships going on right now, and there's a lot of help that's going on.
If we talk about customers for a moment, and of course, without your customers you don't have a business, right?
No.
So the importance of customers and doing the right thing in business, which
being fair and equitable with them.
Yeah. So is that something that's important to you? And again, where does that value come from? Okay.
Again, I'd say, I think because cricket was such a family thing anyway, I loved hitting a ball. That there were I can't explain the energy you get from hitting a ball. At least not being hit by a ball at 90 miles an hour. But playing a game with people that are obviously opponents to you as well, making sure you win fairly and not by cheating, what have you.
Yeah.
And that was something that was always sort of important to me as well. But in business, I've always tried to be always fair. You know, I can give you many examples where clients have said, right, you know, we've got this much budget, we want to spend it on this, and I'm like, you don't need to. You already have something that works much better for you already, and so you don't need to spend extra money. And I'm like, well, that's we take our money and run.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't need to do that. I'd rather you put that money somewhere else, whether that's with me or something else that could actually help you. But certainly don't need to spend any more money. I think if you're spending, you know, X thousand pounds on your ads, is it going to get you more sales? It's unlikely, because looking at the traffic trends and what have you, you're at the top end of your spend, so you don't need to spend any more money. So just being very fair with the advice, and I think it's appreciated from the clients as well. And it builds a level of trust where, you know, when you do really need to go to them and say, hey, you need to spend money here to do this, there's less friction in that decision making as well, because they trust you're on their side basically as well. So that being fair and equitable actually works really well in business for me. And I suppose that comes back from that playing in cricket, but that was many moons ago. Many moons ago.
And so talking about customers then and being fair, and, you know, how do you see, I mean, the market is so volatile, and you know, let's be honest, there's lots of digital marketing agencies out there, right? So what do you do that maybe differentiates you, or what do you do that helps to retain your customer base and drive loyalty? I mean, don't want to give a secret to that.
That's a secret sauce. I don't know whether I want to give it away. Listen, you make a very important point, and you know, when you talk to lots of people about, you know, what's your USP, what's so unique about you, there has to be something unique about you, because, you know, why else would a client want to stay with you? If you're the same as everybody else and you treat them the same as everybody else, then what's their reasoning for staying with you? And of course, with us, you know, I'd like to say it's a relationship. I'd like to say there's honesty in the relationship as well. You know, we tend to make sure that the client gets the value for their money as well. There's lots of other things we do, obviously, so I won't go into much more detail. You'll have to come and join us as a client one day, maybe, and we can show you. But there's lots of really good reasons, and part of that is having direct access to the team. You're not having to go through, you know, people like me as a project manager. You know, you bypass me, you go straight to the source, and you have a direct relationship with them. So certainly from that point of view, it's good, and it's sort of fluid. But I think I have to say, above all of that, is that honest, equitable way that we deal with clients, that they tend to stay with us.
Good, and I think you've probably given more away than you realise throughout this conversation. You've certainly talked about your people and the value that you add to your customers, with the expertise, the information, by keeping on your toes and by investing in your people and in the time to really understand your trade and your craft and really pass that value back onto the customer. So I think that's already a piece that's coming through. So be careful with what you say. You know. but there's a personal part to that as well, isn't it? Because, you know, you've got to have. You talked at the start of the conversation about that drive, that ambition to want to change your fortunes for the first reason for you starting Bootcamp Media, but then also. You've got that continued drive to be still having that passion, that drive 12 years later. You've got to enjoy what you do. Yeah.
I mean, you know, doing it for 11 years now, and 25 years in total, you'd think that eventually you'd be like, okay, I'm done with this now. Yeah. You know, I don't think I can do this any much more. But I honestly, part of the reason why I stay passionate is, one, the clients, you know, but the other is the team, and just seeing their eyes light up. And like we just did a couple of videos for Bootcamp Media on TikTok and Instagram Reels, and they're like little kids, obviously, right? To me they are, obviously, but they can't, look what I've just done, and that excites me, that they're excited about that kind of work as well, and so that keeps me really interested, and keeps me interested in driving the business forward, growing it for them, for myself as well.
I think that demonstrates again what we talked about earlier, by that they're enjoying it because you're giving them the freedom, the structure and the environment that they can go away and just do a great job and get on with what they're here to do. And of course that will give them lots of satisfaction. Likewise, that then emanates itself back out to your customers. So I'm really interested, and this may or may not be a point that you consciously do, but for me, now looking at things like, I understand why you exist as an organisation and why you started, but do you have a formal purpose? Because I think what I've seen in lots of successful organisations is having really good values, which I think you've already demonstrated through the conversation, but you have a formal set of values that when you speak to a potential customer and say, and this is what you can expect to us, because this is the set of values that we operate with, or?
It's an interesting question, actually. I mean, to be honest with you, we need to have aligned values anyway. So whenever we speak to a client, or I certainly am the first person to speak to a client before I hand them over to one of the guys, is I interview the client to see whether they would fit in with our values as a business and whether they would fit in with the team. Because again, they're going to be dealing with my guys here, right? So they're like family to me. And if I find a client that's, again, not equitable and they're not fair, why would I expose my guys to that? And there are times when I've respectfully just said, look, I think we're not the right kind of agency for you. And that's all about making sure that we get the kind of people that we want to work with, that we're excited to work with. And so maybe a more formal way of saying that is that we want to work with the people who look and feel like us. Yeah.
No, that's good, and I think if we just come back to what we touched on a second ago, that brings us back to keeping everybody in the organisation happy, motivated to deliver a high performing organisation effectively is what it certainly seems like you've got here. So first of all, congratulations on that, because it's not it's not easy, right? I mean, we sit here and we talk about it not flippantly, but it's something that clearly comes quite natural to you. I know, I'm sure you've had your challenges and hard times.
You got to, from a business point of view, I am responsible to my business to ensure that it runs effectively, profitably as well, right? So, people tend to think of their business as them. It's not. I treat the business like an entity itself, that I need to respect it, I need to nurture it, I need to grow it as well. And there are certainly some challenges, when business, you need to, add a new client to your portfolio, and you're trying to find the right kind of client as well. And the first, I suppose, the gut instinct could be that a client's just said yes, they want to work with you, but they don't align with you, and then you should just take them on because of the money. And I always say no. I shy away from clients that I know that will not benefit from working with us because either they're not realistic about their goals, or again, their values don't align with us as well. So I'd rather make it easier for the client if we do, we all sing from the same hymn sheet, basically.
Yeah. Getting off on the right foot is the right thing to do, right? Because you're only causing yourself pain further down the road if you don't. And that takes, I'm going to come back to one of our leadership characteristics again, which is fortitude. Because to make that decision, I mean, it's so easy for businesses to not fall into that trap, but accept that work with people that probably don't suit them because, for whatever reason. But it takes a lot of fortitude and courage to take that decision. So again, I think it's really one thing that's definitely coming through in this conversation is all about you as a leader, as a facilitator, as an empowerer of your people, through the people that you work with as well, empowering your customers to maximise what they want out of the relationship, and really bringing that personal element to what you're doing. I think if I was to give away a secret, it seems to be your USP, right? But that's probably the hardest thing to replicate is, there's only one Jimi Shabir, as the football champ might go, but really, that's the hardest part to replicate.
I've tried to duplicate myself a couple of times, but so it doesn't work, unfortunately. So, but what I've tried to do though is empower the team again to do what they need to do to deliver to the team to my clients as well, or our clients, I should say. So there doesn't need to be two of me. Yes, I have a role in the business. Yes, I need to do certain things, but I do less and less in the business now, as far as a practitioner. Anyway, I do like to get my hands dirty with web design, but I'm absolutely crap now. When I look at what my guys can do and compared to what I can do, I'm embarrassed sometimes. But I still enjoy it. I still like to look at code and what have you, and still like to look at the SEO side of things and strategy and what have you as well. But certainly that's just my vanity at the end of the day that gets in my way. So there doesn't need to be two of me. I need to have great people, which I already have, that they do their job. And the only thing that is required in this business is leadership, and hopefully I continue to provide that for the future. But way into the future, I may not be around in the business, so I want to make sure that whoever does come into this role can replace me. That's the only headache I suppose I've got.
Yeah, succession planning, and
That's
which
it.
of course, as you've gone from 1 to 3 to 6 to 15, etc., you're doing that either consciously or subconsciously in the right way. And like you said, you've built a great team around you who now cross-pollination of skills, who have real strength in the foundations of the organisation. That they're not Jimi Shabir, they'll be Adam, Bob, and Sarah. But the point is that influence that you will have had as a leader will help to shape them come through in the right way in the business to have those right values. And again,
I've had over the last 11 years, I've had a number of people who have left, but luckily for me, not many. I can tell you in kind of one hand how many people have left the business. But each one is a friend. I keep in touch with all of the ex-employees as well. But they're friends. They're not ex-employees. They're friends. They've all started their own businesses, and they're all doing very, very well. And I love hearing back from them, and I love getting a pat on the back, I suppose, because everyone needs a pat on the back. Is to say that they wouldn't have done what they're doing now if it wasn't for me or for what we did inside of Bootcamp Media. So that honestly gives me nice, warm, fuzzy feelings inside, because I know we've done the right thing, and hopefully, the team we've got right now, they continue to stay with us for years to come. But they may decide to move on, start their own businesses, or work in other agencies as well. But they'll go away feeling richer and much more, fulfilled as individuals because of the experience with Bootcamp Media. So, certainly from the past feedback I've had, it's always been thumbs up.
Good. Well, just that explanation there just goes to show, again, what a great leader you are, because not only are you bringing through the right type of people, you're developing them, but at the right time, they're saying, actually, it might be my time now to go and do something else.
Certainly was for me.
Yeah.
And look, I always say to guys, look, I don't know whether you're here for 2 years, 5 years, or 10 years. And I have got guys who've been here for 10 years as well. But when the time's right for you and your gut instinct tells you need to go, you should go. I'm not going to stop you. And it's not, I shouldn't have to stop you, because you have to follow your own path, your own dream as well.
Yeah.
So we do encourage people to be sort of forward thinking in that way anyway.
No, really interesting. And I think, again, I keep touching on it, but it is, you are shining through in this conversation as to how much influence. And I suppose when we look back at the networking side of it as well, that's all about people and those relationships and developing those relationships, and how much, over the time, that has now grown into something that's a lot bigger than it was because of the figurehead and the relationships that you've built through that.
Part of that is I've got a great bunch of people around me as volunteers, because everybody gives up their time personally as well. Nobody gets paid. It's not a profit-making organisation in any shape, way, or form. I did say it would, started some 30 odd years ago, and I'm the current incumbent leader of the organisation. Certainly something I've done that was never done before is add structure to it, is to give it some foundation. And an opportunity for it to grow beyond what it actually was before. And the wonderful thing about it now is it has real growth opportunity, but that's to help not only the businesses that come to network, but also the hospitality sector as well, and to shine a light on what great hospitality venues we have in Birmingham and actually across the region as well.
Yeah, you're right. That's a really good point. Bit of a side topic, but you're right. Birmingham has some fantastic hospitality venues. It's a city that's really buzzing right now, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, we've got some very iconic restaurants now, some real buzz places, and I honestly, I just smile every time I go in and out of these places. It's just amazing. The food and service is fabulous.
Yeah, no, definitely. But just coming back to that, you talked about bringing structure to the organisation, and then the growth that comes off the back of that. So, for anything to be really enduring and successful and to have that growth, whether it's Bootcamp Media, whether it's the Phoenix Networking Club, without those stable foundations, I don't think you would have seen the same growth for either of those organisations if you hadn't have put those foundations in place. Would you agree?
And part of the reasons I've done what I've done with Phoenix is because what I've done with Bootcamp Media, but other businesses that I'm involved with as well. And I think structure and foundation is really important. It doesn't have to be rigid, as long as there are certain rules put in place, and plans. Planning is a really important part of it as well, and having a vision of where you want to be. And now, we're about to launch into a new phase of the Phoenix as well. We will have a chair which we'll be announcing very soon. It won't be me, thankfully. We'll have a board which will start making decisions as to how the Phoenix evolves as an organisation. And so, from that point of view, I could see another future growing for the Phoenix as well. But that wouldn't have come without any vision, without leadership itself. And so I'm glad to be part of that, and I'm glad to see that legacy continue to grow and hopefully beyond my years as well.
Yeah, no, exactly, and that's exactly my point. Without those solid foundations, you wouldn't have attracted that. For people to volunteer, they've got to believe in the purpose of and look at the structure and say, is this something that I want to give up my time for? And then ultimately, to see that out and see it grow, and now you're putting even more structure in place to take that next phase of growth as well. So, putting foundations in isn't just a one-stop thing, is it? It's a continual process of
fine-tuning
those.
Yeah, as I say to any business, whether you're starting a business or helping a business but fine-tuning is the most important part. It's doing something, trying it, see if it works. If it doesn't, trying something else, and fine-tuning it. And I'm so proud of what we've done with the Phoenix and what's to come yet. And I can't wait to share with you guys what's going to be happening in the next 6 months now.
We almost got some hot off the press.
Yeah. I've just announced that we're going to have a chair. Not many people know that, but we will be announcing a new chairman for the Phoenix. And the first chairman I'll be choosing myself, but certainly we've written up a sort of a charter for the Phoenix itself. And in the coming years, the chairman will be chosen by the members. So there'll be a lot of equilibrium and equity in there as well. So I will choose the first one. I'll take it on the chin, good or bad. I'm sure he's going to be awesome anyway. But the board and the membership will choose the successor and so on and so forth as well.
Very good. Well, I wish you all the best with
Thank you.
The chair selection and obviously the announcement. Look forward to hearing that on social media in the near future. Again, just touching upon a couple of things that you've talked about there through both the Phoenix and also Bootcamp Media and the foundations is, we talk about building from solid foundations. We talk about in the business ecosystem, things like your vision, your mission, your values, your principles, which we've also touched upon today. So I think what you've demonstrated here is you've got a great understanding of what it takes to build a successful business. I think that's reflective in both what you've achieved through Bootcamp Media and what you're also seeing the results of for Phoenix. You've definitely got that reputation as a steadfast leader within the business community in Birmingham. So I think that's a great. It's been great to be able to speak to you today. I know you thanked me for coming along today, but I definitely thank you for taking the time out of your extremely busy schedule with both, Bootcamp and all of the other things that you're involved with.
I appreciate it.
So really appreciate your time today. I'm sure everybody will take huge value from some of the insights that you've given today. So once again, thank you for your time and all the best moving forward.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
The Web of Success Podcast. Building better businesses.